Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to share 3 true and truly chilling stories with you. These tales are not for the faint-hearted, so brace yourself for some eerie adventures. Each story is a first-hand account of unexplainable events that promise to send shivers down your spine. From mysterious encounters to haunted locations, get ready to dive into the world of the supernatural and the unexplained. Let's get started, and remember, keep the lights on. You might need them.
Story 1. Echoes of Redemption.
The dust motes danced in the golden shafts of the setting sun filtering through the dusty basement window. Ethan, a man weathered by years spent outdoors, stood mesmerized before a large, ornate cage. Inside, a sleek African gray parrot with an intelligent glint in its black eyes cocked its head, studying him back. "Hello, birdie," Ethan rasped, his voice rough from disuse. The parrot cawed sharply, a sound that echoed eerily in the damp, cavernous basement. Ethan hadn't planned on this. Shelter beds were full, the soup kitchen slammed shut for the night. Desperation had gnawed at him, pushing him towards the dimly lit house on Elm Street. He'd seen the old man who lived there, frail and stooped, feeding the birds seeds every morning. Tonight, the house was dark, a perfect opportunity. All he needed was a quick rummage for some food, enough to see him through the night. Slipping through the unlocked back door, Ethan tiptoed towards the kitchen, heart hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. A sudden, ear-splitting squawk shattered the silence. He whirled around, his eyes falling on the basement door creaking open. A rush of cold air met him, carrying with it the harsh glare of a single bare bulb illuminating a birdcage. The parrot, perched proudly on a swing, was fixated on him, its sharp beak clicking open and shut. Panic clawed at Ethan's throat. He needed to disappear, fast. He lunged for the back door, but a guttural scream tore from the bird's throat. It wasn't a mere squawk anymore, but a chillingly clear, "Intruder! Intruder!" Ethan froze, sweat prickling his skin like ice needles. The basement door slammed shut behind him with a sickening thud. Trapped, Ethan scrambled towards the window, the narrow space offering the only escape route. But as he reached for the rusty handle, the basement door swung open again. A tall figure, broad-shouldered with worry etched on his face, stood at the entrance. His eyes met Ethan's, surprise quickly morphing into anger. Ethan threw his hands up in surrender, babbling apologies, his voice choked with fear. The figure remained silent, studying Ethan with a calculating gaze. Then, to Ethan's utter astonishment, a slow smile spread across his face. "Kevin, good boy," the figure said, turning towards the cage. The parrot ruffled its feathers, cawing proudly as if receiving a reward. Relief washed over Ethan, so intense it almost knocked him off his feet. The figure, introducing himself as Tom, was the son of the old man who lived in the house. He explained that Kevin, his father's beloved pet, was incredibly sensitive to strangers and had a remarkable ability to mimic human speech. Ethan, his voice trembling slightly, recounted his story, the hunger, the desperation. Tom's smile softened. "You know," Tom said slowly, "we've been looking for someone to help with Kevin, someone to keep him company when Dad's away visiting his sister." Ethan stared at Tom, his mind racing. A roof over his head, food in his belly, and all he had to do was keep a parrot company? It seemed too good to be true. Hesitantly, he agreed. The following weeks were a revelation for Ethan. Tom turned out to be a kind soul, offering him a small room in the attic and a steady stream of odd jobs around the house. Kevin, despite the initial terrifying encounter, proved to be a surprisingly engaging companion. He learned Ethan's routine, squawking "good morning" at sunrise and a perfect rendition of "see you later" when Ethan left for his daily chores. He even learned an impressive repertoire of cowboy songs, Tom's childhood favorites, which Kevin would belt out with gusto every evening, filling the house with a strange, melancholy joy. One evening, as Ethan sat in the den with Kevin perched on his shoulder, a news report on the television caught his eye. A mugshot flashed across the screen. A face with desperation etched deep into the lines. A face all too familiar. It was the face of a man wanted for a string of petty robberies in the neighborhood. A man known only as the Crow. A lump formed in Ethan's throat. "Kevin," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "That man, on the TV. Do you remember him?" Kevin tilted his head, staring at the image with an unsettling intensity. Then, with a chilling clarity that sent shivers down Ethan's spine, the parrot spoke. "Intruder! Intruder!"
Story 2. Echoes in the Silence.
The chlorine sting lingered in Ethan's nose as he unlocked the silent house. His parents were separated. His brother, Leo, had flown the coop for college just that week, and the cavernous house felt emptier than a public pool on Christmas. Heaving his backpack onto the worn living room rug, Ethan retreated to his makeshift study in the basement. Textbooks and papers sprawled across the old ping-pong table, a battlefield of upcoming exams and looming college applications. Just as he pulled out his calculus textbook, a voice sliced through the quiet. "Ethan, come on up." It was Leo's voice, clear as day, echoing from the floor above. Relief washed over Ethan. Maybe Leo had come home early, a surprise visit to chase away the post-departure blues. But then, confusion prickled at him. Leo had evening soccer practice, something Ethan distinctly remembered dropping him off for earlier. With a frown, Ethan pushed back his chair, the screech of metal on concrete feeling unnervingly loud in the stillness. He checked Leo's room first, finding it undisturbed, bed unmade, posters staring blankly from the walls. The familiar scent of Leo's cologne wasn't clinging to the air like it usually did. Panic gnawed at the edges of his stomach. He sprinted down the hallway, checking his parents' room, empty, and then his own, untouched. Each unoccupied room amplified the echo of the voice that seemed to be bouncing off the walls. Leo's voice called again, louder this time, a hint of impatience in his tone. It was coming from the living room, dread coiled in Ethan's gut, a cold sweat prickling his skin. He crept towards the living room door, its oak surface polished smooth from years of childhood handprints, his own included. He peeked through the crack, heart hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The room was empty, sunlight from the setting sun casting long shadows across the worn furniture. Still, the voice persisted, a disembodied whisper now. "Ethan, where are you?" A choked sob escaped Ethan's lips. This wasn't Leo. This wasn't a prank. Just then, the familiar rumble of the garage door opening sent a jolt through Ethan. He sprinted towards the sound, praying for a rational explanation. The sight that greeted him drowned out the remnants of Leo's voice. There stood his father, a tired smile etched on his face, and next to him, backpack slung low, was Leo himself. Relief slammed into Ethan, warm and powerful. Tears streamed down his face as he choked out, "Leo, Dad." His father's smile faltered. "Ethan, what's wrong?" "I heard," Ethan stammered, pointing towards the empty living room. "I thought." Leo frowned. "Heard what?" Ethan took a shuddering breath. "I heard you calling me upstairs, Leo, from the living room." The color drained from Leo's face. He looked at his father, a silent question hanging in the air. His father's gaze darted towards the living room, a flicker of something akin to fear in his usually calm eyes. "There's no way," Leo finally whispered, his voice tight. "The house has been empty all day. Coach called. Practice was canceled because of a leak in the pool." A heavy silence descended upon them. The setting sun cast an eerie glow through the garage door, making the shadows in the living room seem deeper, more menacing. Ethan shivered, a new kind of fear creeping up his spine. It wasn't just the voice he'd heard. It was the fear mirrored in his father and brother's eyes, a fear they weren't acknowledging. Days turned into weeks, the memory of the disembodied voice festering in their minds. No logical explanation surfaced. The house, once a familiar haven, felt charged with an unseen tension. Sleep came in fits and starts, haunted by whispers and the unsettling feeling of being watched. One evening, as the storm raged outside, another voice joined the chorus. This one, a woman's, soft and pleading. It called for Leo, begging him to come home. Ethan and his father exchanged a panicked look. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't his imagination. The house was truly haunted. Days later, a local historian, a woman with kind eyes and a weathered face, arrived at their doorstep. They poured out their story, the fear and confusion etched on their faces. The woman listened patiently, her gaze fixed on a faded photograph hanging on the wall, a picture of Ethan's parents on their wedding day, beaming smiles under a bright summer sky. "This house," the woman began, her voice low, "has a history." She explained that the house was built over a century ago by a family who tragically lost their young daughter, Lily. The story of Lily sent shivers down their spines. Apparently, the little girl had drowned in the very pool that Leo now swam in on the rare occasions he could stomach being back in the house. The locals whispered that Lily's spirit never left, forever searching for solace in the place where her life ended. Ethan couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the lost girl. Yet, the fear remained, a constant companion. The house, once filled with the echoes of their childhood, now seemed to breathe with an unseen presence. The historian, however, offered a glimmer of hope. She spoke of a ritual, an appeasement of sorts that could potentially bring peace to Lily's spirit. It involved leaving a white candle and a single white rose by the pool every full moon, a symbolic offering to the restless soul. Skeptical but desperate, they followed the historian's instructions. The first full moon felt like an eternity in coming. As the moon bathed the house in its silvery light, Ethan held his breath while his father placed the candle and rose by the pool. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a low hum vibrating through the house. Then, silence. The following weeks were tense. They waited for any sign, any sound that might indicate the ritual had failed. But there was nothing. No voices, no whispers, just the unsettling quiet that had become their new normal. Hope, like a fragile bud, began to bloom in their hearts. One morning, Ethan woke to an unfamiliar sound, laughter. It was faint, coming from the living room. He crept downstairs, heart pounding a frantic rhythm. There, in the center of the room, bathed in sunlight streaming through the window, stood a young girl. But this wasn't any girl. Her clothes were old-fashioned, her hair a cascade of golden curls. Her eyes, the color of a summer sky, held a spark of mischief. For a fleeting moment, Ethan saw a reflection of himself and Leo in her smile, a younger version, filled with carefree joy. Before Ethan could react, the girl vanished. Just like that, he stood there, speechless, a single white rose petal lying at his feet, a silent confirmation of what he had witnessed. The house never felt entirely free of Lily's presence, a gentle tug at the corners of their perception. But the voices stopped, replaced by a sense of quiet acceptance. They learned to coexist with the spirit of the little girl, leaving her offerings by the pool on full moon nights, a silent pact between the living and the restless dead. Years passed. Ethan and Leo grew up, leaving the house behind for college and their own lives. Yet, they returned often, drawn by a strange pull. The house, once a place of fear, became a poignant reminder of a shared past, a story whispered on the wind, carried in the moonlight, a story of loss, love, and the enduring echo of a little girl's laughter.
Story 3. Shadows of Redwood Resort.
The rusty iron gates groaned open with a screech that echoed across the overgrown grounds. The skeletal remains of the Redwood Resort loomed before Ethan and Jackson, a monument to a forgotten summer paradise. Vines snaked across the peeling paint of the main building, windows like vacant eyes staring back at them. Armed with a beat-up backpack filled with snacks and 2 walkie-talkies crackling with static, the teenage boys ventured into the forbidden zone. Ethan, the ever-cautious one, hesitated. "Maybe this isn't such a good idea, Jack." Jackson, a whirlwind of nervous energy, scoffed. "Come on, scaredy cat. It'll be an adventure." He disappeared around the corner, his flashlight beam slicing through the gloom. Ethan sighed. Jackson's impulsive nature always landed them in trouble, but Ethan couldn't resist the allure of exploration. He followed, the silence broken only by the crunch of their footsteps on gravel and the occasional rustle in the foliage. They split up, agreeing to stay in contact via walkie-talkies. Ethan found himself drawn to a lone building separated from the main complex. It was a squat, single-story structure with peeling paint and boarded windows. A peculiar red stain, viscous and dark, marred the concrete floor in jagged lines. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. Animal blood. Maybe? Jackson, he crackled on the walkie-talkie. There's something weird here. You see anything interesting on your end? Static hissed in response. He called again, this time with growing urgency. Still only static. Dread coiled in his stomach. He tried his phone, but there was no signal in this concrete tomb. Suddenly, a sharp, rhythmic beeping resonated from within the dark building. Ethan's heart stuttered. Someone else was here? Hesitantly, he aimed his flashlight at the single unlocked door. It creaked open with a groan, revealing a dimly lit bathroom. The beeping grew louder, emanating from behind a stall. Ethan inched closer, his hand hovering over the flashlight button. Should he investigate? Curiosity warred with a primal fear. Just as he was about to step inside, a hand clamped roughly on his shoulder. Jackson, panting and pale, emerged from the shadows. "Don't go in there, Ethan," he hissed. Relief flooded Ethan. "Jackson, where have you been? I tried to contact you." Jackson's eyes were wide. I ran into someone at one of the bungalows. A woman, gaunt, with wild hair. She started yelling at me, then chased me out." Ethan's blood ran cold. A woman? Maybe someone homeless using the place as a shelter? Jackson shook his head, his voice trembling. No, this wasn't some vagrant. Her eyes, they were hollow, like black pits. And the smell? He gagged, his face contorted in disgust. Like something rotten. The beeping from the bathroom had stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Fear, thick and suffocating, gripped them both. They didn't need words to understand. They had to get out of there. They sprinted back to the entrance, the abandoned resort seeming to shrink under the weight of their terror. As they clambered through the rusted gates, they didn't dare look back. Back in the safety of the highway, Ethan finally caught his breath. "Do you think that woman had something to do with the red stuff?" Jackson swallowed hard. "Maybe," he whispered. "But what was it? Blood? Paint? Something else entirely?" They never found the answer. News reports never mentioned a missing woman in the area, and the Redwood Resort remained abandoned. But for Ethan and Jackson, the memory lingered. A chilling reminder of their encounter with something sinister lurking in the heart of a forgotten paradise. Years later, Ethan, now a successful journalist, received a call from a frantic woman. "My name is Sarah," she stammered, "and I need your help. I found something terrible at the Redwood Resort." Intrigue warring with an old fear, Ethan knew he had to revisit the place that had haunted his teenage years. Maybe this time, he would finally uncover the truth behind the red stains, the strange beeping, and the chilling woman with hollow eyes.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to listen to similar stories in future.